The night air was dry and tense, like the land itself was holding its breath. The moon was only a sliver above the desert, just enough light to make out the shapes of the cacti, the ridges of distant hills, and the shadow of a man riding hard through the dust. His name was Colt Rayner, a cowboy with a past no one dared to ask about, and a silence that said more than most men's words ever could. He rode like the devil was behind him, and maybe he was. Up ahead, the flickering glow of a campfire broke the darkness. He pulled his horse to a stop, squinting. He hadn't expected to see anyone this far out from Canyon Ridge, not at this hour. But then he heard it, a sound no man could ignore, a scream, high, desperate, and ripped straight from the throat of a woman. Colt's hand went for his revolver. In the next breath, he kicked his horse forward, galloping toward the fire. When he reached the clearing, he saw 3 men, rough-looking drifters, circling a woman tied to a tree. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, her wrists bleeding where the rope bit into her skin. The men looked up when they heard Colt's horse. One spat and sneered, the other 2 reached for their guns. But Colt was faster. 3 shots cracked through the desert night, sharp, clean, and final. The woman gasped, pressing herself against the tree as the bodies hit the ground. Colt jumped down from his horse and untied her, his jaw tight. "You all right, miss?" Her eyes, wild, terrified, and yet oddly determined, locked on his. "You shouldn't have done that," she said in a voice that trembled. "They'll come for you now." Colt frowned. "Who'll come?" She looked past him, toward the horizon, as if she could already see what was coming. "The McClary brothers. Those men worked for them. They won't stop until they find me." She hesitated, then grabbed his hand suddenly. "Please, take me away before dawn or they'll kill me." Her words hit him like a hammer to the chest. Colt didn't usually do favors, especially not for strangers. But there was something in her eyes, something between terror and fire, that made him nod before his brain could argue. "Get on," he said gruffly, helping her onto his horse. As the first light of false dawn bled into the sky, they rode hard toward the mountains. Dash, dash, dash. Hours passed. The desert stretched endless before them, gold and ghostly. The woman hadn't spoken much, just kept glancing back over her shoulder as if expecting a pack of riders to appear any minute. Finally, Colt asked, "You gonna tell me what this is all about, miss?" She hesitated. "My name's Alara. I was supposed to marry one of the McClary brothers." Colt's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes darkened. "Supposed to?" She swallowed hard. "I never said yes. They don't take no for an answer. I tried to run once. They caught me. This was my second try." He nodded slowly. "You picked a bad night to run." "I didn't have a choice," she whispered. "They were going to." She stopped, shivering. "I overheard them say they'd kill my father if I didn't go through with it." "But my father's already dead." "They don't know that." Colt was silent for a while. Then he said quietly, "You're a brave girl, Alara." She let out a bitter laugh. "Brave? No. Just desperate." The wind picked up around them, whipping through the mesquite. Somewhere far behind, the echo of hooves broke the silence. Alara turned sharply. "They're coming." Colt glanced back, jaw tightening. "How many?" "4, maybe 5. Then we keep moving." He kicked the horse faster, but the riders were gaining ground. By the time the sun had fully risen, they'd reached the edge of the canyon. The trail ahead split, one leading down into the ravine, the other into the pine hills. Colt reined in hard, weighing their chances. Alara's breath came fast. "Which way?" He scanned the horizon. "If we go down, they'll trap us." "Hills it is." They turned toward the slope just as gunfire split the morning air. Bullets struck the rocks around them, spraying dust and stone. Alara ducked, clinging to Colt's coat as he spurred the horse into the trees. They rode until their horse was frothing and trembling. When Colt finally stopped, they were deep in the forest, where sunlight fell in broken pieces through the branches. Alara slid off the horse, shaking. "You should leave me," she said breathlessly. "You don't know what you're risking." Colt dismounted slowly, his eyes steady. "Don't tell me what I don't know." "You don't understand," she said, gripping his arm. "The McClarys run half this territory. They've got men everywhere, townsfolk, lawmen. I know exactly who they are." He cut in, voice low. "Used to work for him." Her eyes widened. "You, what?" He leaned against a tree, his gaze hard as the gun at his hip. "Years back, before I knew what kind of devils they were, When I left, they made sure I paid for it." He turned his head slightly, the light catching the long scar down his neck. "Their oldest brother, Clay McClary, gave me this." Alara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then why are you helping me?" Colt's eyes softened for just a second. "Maybe because no one helped me when I needed it." She looked away, fighting tears. "You should have let me die back there. At least you wouldn't be hunted." He gave a half smile. "Darlin', I've been hunted for years. This don't change much. .. By midday, they'd made a small camp in the shadow of a cliff. Colt tied the horse and gathered dry wood while Alara tried to steady her hands. Every sound made her flinch. Every gust of wind felt like a warning. When he returned, she was sitting with her knees pulled to her chest. "You ever kill a man before tonight?" he asked suddenly. She looked up, startled. "No." "Then don't start thinking about it," he said, striking a match. "Thinking's what breaks you." She frowned, studying him. "You don't seem broken." He smirked. "That's 'cause I already was." For a while, they sat in silence, listening to the crackle of the fire and the whisper of the wind. Then Alara spoke quietly. "If we make it to the next town, what then?" Colt poked the fire with a stick. "Depends. You got somewhere to go." She shook her head. "No one left." He looked at her for a long time, then said, "Then we keep right until you find a place that feels like home." She gave him a faint smile. "You talk like a man who doesn't believe in home." "I don't," he said simply. "But maybe you'll prove me wrong." Night came fast, dragging the cold with it. The fire was low, the stars endless above them. Alara couldn't sleep. Every creak of the tree sounded like footsteps. When she finally looked over at Colt, he was awake too, staring into the dark. "You think they'll find us?" she whispered. He didn't answer at first. Then he said, "They'll try." A pause, then the sound of hooves again. Colt was on his feet in an instant. "Get behind the rocks," he ordered. Alara obeyed, heart hammering. 5 riders appeared through the trees, McClary's men. Colt crouched low, revolver ready. When the first rider dismounted, Colt fired. The man fell. Chaos erupted. Gunfire tore through the trees. Colt moved fast, using the rocks for cover, taking down one after another with deadly precision. But then he heard a scream. Alara, one of the riders, had circled around, grabbed her by the hair, and pressed a knife to her throat. "Drop it, Cowboy," the man shouted. Colt froze. The man's grin was sickening. "Didn't think we'd find ya so quick, did ya? Clay's gonna want her back alive." "You, not so much." Alara struggled, whispering through her tears, Don't let them take me." Colt's hand twitched on his gun. His eyes locked on hers. In that split second, something passed between them, something wordless, raw, and final. Then Colt moved. A single shot cracked. The man dropped, the knife slipping from his hand. Alara stumbled free as Colt caught her. But his knees buckled. Blood bloomed across his shirt. No, she whispered, clutching him. "Colt, stay with me." He managed a faint grin. "Told you, I've been hunted before." Tears blurred her vision. "You can't die. Not now. Not after." He reached up weakly, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You're free now, Alara. Don't waste it." She shook her head, crying. Please don't leave me." His eyes began to fade, but his hand stayed warm against her cheek for one last heartbeat. Then the forest went still. Dawn came pale and cold. Alara buried him at the edge of the clearing, under a tree that faced east. She carved his name into a piece of wood and pressed her palm to the earth. Then she saddled his horse and rode toward the rising sun. Behind her, the wind whispered through the canyon, soft, mournful, and endless. And though she didn't look back, she knew one thing for certain: the cowboy who'd done the unthinkable had given her more than her life. He'd given her freedom.